My name is Tauqueer, and I don't know if you got a chance to go through the brief about the topic that we are going to discuss today. Okay, ठीक है, no issues. So apparently we don't have much time today. I was supposed to be here for 2 hours, and the session has been squeezed to 35-40 minutes. So I'll try and see what I can cover. If you have any questions, we can connect again, and I'll see what I can do. Okay. So this is sort of an introduction to what happens in digital space. Now, if you just look at the kind of companies that are coming up in the digital space, it could be a little overwhelming, right? So you have online retailers, you have aggregators, you have companies that are selling stuff on apps, Ola, Swiggy. Have you ever wondered if there is a pattern that kind of, lays things out for you? There is actually, if you knew those patterns, you would actually be able to put all these companies in their spaces, and it makes the job of understanding the business much easier. Okay, so we'll get to that. So the topic for today is we want to discuss that set of patterns and see if it helps you understand the digital space better. Okay. This is supposed to be an interactive session. Okay. Anybody wants to take a stab at it? Customer segments.
Engagement?
Yes, engagement to some extent, but that's not the most.
Bringing awareness.
Bringing?
Awareness about the brand.
See, awareness, customer segments, they've been around for hundreds of years, right? 100 years back, if somebody wanted to do marketing or start a new business, they would find out if there are customer segments relevant for that business or not.
Analytics? More of behavior.
Reach. It's the marrying of the digital with the physical world.
That's the closest that anybody has got here. So yeah. What else? Yeah, I mean, internet is like mother of all. So obviously that's there. Okay. Okay, so let me put it this way. What is it that kind of governs everything that we have just talked about? Is there an underlying theory or what, advertising? Advertising has been around for a very long time.
Social media. See, whenever the user wants to see it, he can go and check it. It's like a one-on-one interaction sort of thing. It's not like on demand. Whenever I want it, I can do it anywhere.
Okay. So what is it?
Faster reach.
Okay, faster reach. It's not the most important underlying theme, but obviously digital is fast. Okay.
24/7.
Always on. Yes. It's one of the patterns, but what is that one thing that sort of governs? And you guys know about normal distribution, right? So if we actually mapped, so if we mapped anything, if we say, for instance, we have 40 chairs in this room, right? So if somebody actually created a table saying, I want to tabulate the quality of all these chairs. So you will have maybe 1 or 2 chairs that are not in very good shape, right? And 1 or 2 chairs which are almost like brand new, but 80% of the chairs would be somewhere in between, right? So that's what normal distribution is about, right? Apparently everything in the universe follows normal distribution, right? Yeah, Pareto is different, it's the power law. Normal is Gaussian distribution. So this guy, Chris Anderson, he's the guy who not discovered, but Longtail has been around for a long time. He discovered that things online or in digital economy, they follow the power law, the long tail. So that is normal distribution, that is long tail. What it essentially means is that if you're doing business offline, you will have a few Microsofts and Tatas and Birlas and few guys who sell pani puri on roads, right? The two extremes of businesses. But 80% of the business would be in between, right? So you'll have thousands of millions of people who are doing SMEs, doing extremely well for themselves, and you will have these two extremes on the other sides. Online, you're either a hero or a zero. There is nothing in between. So you have Amazon and Google here, and that's it. That's the end. Then you have, there's no 80% here. Okay. So since this was,
Why would that be?
okay, that's a different question, but that's how it is. Okay. Now I'll talk to you about that. Okay. But let's see what are the other ways in which long tail manifests itself, right? Everything online, right? If you had access to a website, okay, you would see that there are some 3-4 keywords that drive a lot of traffic, and then you have a huge list of keywords that that together drive a lot of traffic, but individually are insignificant. Okay. Same with referring, anything online, anything. If this is the first time you're hearing this idea, you have to let it sink.
So my understanding of the long tail is that typically if you look at the retail store
Yes.
or retail market, the commerce, they will keep the most popular items. So if you're looking for popular stuff, you will find it in the stores. But if you're looking for those slightly unpopular or rarer items, it is harder for you to find that in the physical store. But what the internet and e-commerce has enabled is that if I'm looking for something that is in the long tail, which is kind of not very popular or not used as much, the e-commerce helps me to get that.
Exactly.
Irrespective of the location. So maybe I get those in some stores in a city, large city, but if I'm in a tier 2, tier 3 place, I really will find it very hard to find those products. Which with the e-commerce and the...
So that's the number one implication of long tail. The shelf space in an offline store is limited, so they are better off using that space to keep bestsellers than keep a book that would probably be bought by only 2 people. But online, the space is unlimited. So that is an answer to your question, because the space is unlimited. Okay, you can essentially have unlimited number of products, and even if there are 2 or 3 buyers, it'll work. Okay, so that's the implication of the number one implication. So in fact, Chris Anderson told this to the founder of Amazon, and that was then that they started, keeping a lot of extremely old books, knowing that at least somebody would try to search and find that. And the profit that you make from these head products or keywords, right, is not too different, is not too far or too less than the profit that you would make by aggregating the individual profits that you would make from the long tail. So you have to sort of think about it. When you go back, you do Google search. A lot of people have written about long tail. There's this thick book written on long tail. There are n number of examples. There are different ways in which people have sort of sliced and diced long tails. I'll show you an example. Okay. Now most people, when they talk about long tail, right, they almost always talk about this graph, right? There's one more way to look at long tail using 2 axes that gives you slightly different perspective, which is what is here. Okay, so So on x-axis you have consumers, you have heavy consumers, you have light consumers, and on the y-axis you have suppliers, heavy suppliers and light suppliers. What do you think digital economy or digital media enables here? See, this is what gets the most visibility, right? Flipkart, Amazon, eBay. But this is just one quadrant. Sorry. No. This is the quadrant of Amazon and Flipkart. Plus this, the marketplace is this. Heavy consumers are not individual consumers. Heavy consumers are like B2B people, right? Intel wants to buy something from IBM, it will fall in that quadrant. There's not much digital can do there. You know, some big guy from Intel will contact some big guy in IBM, they'll do transaction and done. Right? This is where it started, right? So Amazon or any online retailer, for instance, they had a lot of products, and then they became visible to customers online, and then they moved from this space to this space, right? They realized that instead of them keeping all the inventory, right, they can actually create a marketplace. So you have light consumers, you have light suppliers. What it essentially means is, you know, any vendor can list their product, right? And you add local to it now, right? Then you get Swiggy, you get Food Panda.
So basically, this quadrant, what do you mean? Like basically, light consumers and then light suppliers. So what does it actually mean? We're not getting the essence of what. Light consumer is a guy sitting in Koramangala who wants to have breakfast, okay, today. And light supplier is a guy who has a shop 500 meters from that place who sells breakfast. Okay, and you say the Swiggy or the Ola of the world or the Ubers of the world, they are aggregating all of this.
Right? That's B2B, yeah. Nobody is here, so this is an open business space. Can you think of somebody who's doing this, except the government maybe? You know, when long tail was discovered, there were actually around 350, 400 startups based on the idea of long tail. A lot of them became big success, some of them failed.
So most of the startups falls under light supply.
In last 2-3 years, this is the place which has been very active. Prior to that, this was the space. You have something that you want to sell to consumers, and you own those products. So you go online like Amazon and all that. Okay, this is the place which has become very active. Plus, you know, adding the local dimension to it.
So this is B2B and B2C as well. That's where it covers both.
It's sort of B2B2C, B2B2C. Okay, so you have a long tail of people who are interested in buying something, right? So if you open Swiggy, right, it gives you a huge list of things. All the shops near you. Those are the long tail suppliers. These guys will never be able to supply to somebody sitting in Mumbai. Flipkart from its warehouse can send things to Mumbai and Bangalore and Delhi, right? These guys who are here, they can only serve people around them, right? So you have a marketplace that's capable of connecting these light suppliers with light consumers.
And why is not, so you said that the right quadrant, heavy supplies, heavy consumers, there's not much digital
penetration there because of all personal contacts which are there.
There was a company that was very recently launched in that space. It's called makeitdeals.com. Okay, the ex-president of Polaris started that company. He said a lot of companies in the West, they want to give their IT services business to India, and he wanted to have a portal where they could find people whom, companies that could get work from the US. Didn't work.
Does stock use come into that B2B? Because I believe it sells the goods to businesses as well as to consumers. Stockuse.com.
I think it's largely B2C, isn't it? They advertise on TV, they want you to get deals. It's mostly targeted to, I don't know if they use digital to make a difference in the B2B space. They may have a B2B version.
Because I was looking for car parts, okay, and I was able to find car parts on that site. You would normally not find on Flipkart or.
Okay.
But this is a
No issues, right? But there is a no. So all I'm saying is, the thing is, you have a framework like this that kind of gives a pattern to what's happening. Maybe nobody has figured out how to do it in B2B. Maybe nobody has figured out how to do it for heavy consumers and light suppliers. Those are open areas. If you have an idea, you can start a company.
There are a few companies supporting Amazon and Flipkart or Snapdeal who is supplying the material to the end customer, like WS Retail and Tauqueer and these other companies. Where they fall?
WS Retail is big.
Yes.
They are heavy suppliers, isn't it? They are heavy suppliers. But a small shop owner in Bangalore who supplies, 3 designs of T-shirts, which is still listed on Flipkart, is a light supplier. Yeah, Flipkart covers both, light supplier. WS Retail is heavy supplier. A small shop is light supplier.
Any other example of heavy consumers and light suppliers?
I couldn't come up with any.
what's the basic challenge out there?
Heavy consumers, light supplier and distribution itself is not there. Supply is not there for them primarily. We don't have a supply for the demand.
Yeah. So you're basically saying there is this large company that wants to buy a lot of things and can only get it from small, suppliers. Maybe there is something. Yeah, land acquisition. Actually, land acquisition could be. So there can be a portal on land acquisition actually. Yeah, that you can sell to the government. Yeah, that's a very good example actually. Government wanting to acquire land all over the country from small farmers. No, legal Uber is there in legal dispute. Ola is there. See, when you become too big to fail, somebody will support. But that's a great example actually.
Bank is a kind of land model, right? Because a lot of small depositors deposit money and big loans are given out of that.
Yeah, that's sort of similar to government taking taxes, Yeah, but that's also there. Yeah, but bank sort of, more than a consumer, it's actually, supplier. Huh?
Locally produced oil and natural gas. May not come in entirely disadvantage, but consumers are light, but there are no suppliers.
They cannot be light suppliers.
No, the suppliers are light, locally produced in India.
So by that definition, all agriculture is quality.
Amul
You're selling only to traditional retail, you're selling it KFC.
Amul could be a good example of heavy
Yeah.
suppliers.
Could be.
All villages.
So I'm not saying that there is no business like that. I'm just saying that there's no online version anchor for that, right? So if you can discover something, you have an opportunity actually.
We have to do a lot of lobbying.
Huh?
Lot of lobbying we have to do, and in a
maybe that's, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but then the interesting part would be that you won't have trouble selling it, right? See, if the consumer is heavy, it's a large consumer, government of India, right? If you have a buy-in from them, it's okay. Flipkart has to do advertising on TV to get millions of customers. You don't have to. All you have to do is, if you can somehow, negotiate with that one heavy consumer, you're done.
So now, like government is saying that public-private railway stations things. So where it fall, like when the business will start?
So a railway station is, what is a railway station? It's a supplier, right? People go to railway station, pay money, so it's a supplier. So it's a heavy supplier.
But again, it's
Huh?
Can also be a Indian Railways as such is the biggest company.
Public and private partnership.
See, a bank or government trying to acquire land probably is a very great fit here. But everything else, you have to, you're sort of confusing between a supplier and a consumer. A railway station is a supplier. It's a heavy supplier. So it lies there. Its business is somewhere here, right? A lot of people go to railway station, light customers, thousands of light customers go and consume railway station. So it falls in this quadrant. All right, so it's a very interesting exercise. I've done this before with other people, and a lot of people came up with some very, very interesting ideas. Okay. It is a tool for you to sort of find out where is the next business gap in one dimension. There are other patterns also that I'll show that you can use to sort of find out if there are gaps that can be fulfilled. IBM calls itself an analytics company. I don't know how many of you have heard this. They say they're not a tech company anymore. They are an analytics company. They've spent some $5 billion acquiring analytics companies. Here's another interesting XY axis. So you have data and you have ways of acting on that data. Okay? There are two types of data. The spectrum of data would be a data which is not real time, which is like if I come and tell you what happened 3 months back, that's not a real time data. And then there is a real time data, right? When you know what's happening at this moment. So that's the spectrum of data. And then you have ways of taking action on that data. It could be manual or it could be automated. So, So basically, if you have put a out of office reminder on your email, that is sort of a automated action. Somebody sends you an email, they get an automatic email back. Look at these companies. Remarketing is when you visit a website and then everywhere you go you start seeing their banners, right? So that's real-time data, automated action. Nobody is manually sitting behind Flipkart saying, okay, this guy is going, so let me show banners. It's all automated.
Some kind of a billboard display or
What is that?
like when we are doing some dynamics. So that's not even so it's like the traffic is less or like the performance are less, then we can offer up 25%.
So IT background. Okay, you always jump into how part. Okay, how comes later. So somebody will find how part. Okay, let's see what is happening. Okay, so whether it's cookie or whether it's something else, cookie-less, doesn't matter. What matters is there is a way for the websites to know who visited them and to follow them. Okay, so there's an ad network, underlying ad network. What's interesting here is this is how most, the usage of data and automation is being done. And you have empty spaces. Okay, so here is an empty space, right? Have you heard traffic update on FM? Yes. Right? That data is real time, but you can't do anything about it. There's no automated way for them to, use that data. Unlike Uber or Ola, where they use that data, right? So if a driver says, I'm done with this trip, their program immediately finds out if there is anybody else in that area who's looking for a cab. There's no manual action there. So almost all of them, right? So they sort of marry real-time data with real-time automated action, and this is all very recent, isn't it? This graph has been around for a very long time, but these businesses, they're very recent, like 2-3 years.
That is the emerging quadrant, right?
That is a crowded quadrant.
It's crowded but emerging instead.
But emerging, where a lot of opportunities are there, no doubt, right? But then you also have these other spaces where not too many people are, not many people are paying attention to these quadrants. I ignored this. I think I copied it from the previous slide.
But the lower quadrant is very less significant if everyone wants like a real data or passion we will go into the not real data.
Maybe you can move some of these there. So essentially, this graph is saying this is how you map businesses that are making use of data and automation. Okay, and it creates an opportunity. Obviously, most of the action is here. Obviously, most of the action is there, but there is an opportunity for people to see if they can move something from here to there. So, for instance, traffic update on FM, right? Now, if the update is in real time, right? Why can't the action be in real time? Why can't somebody build a tool that can use that traffic data and feed it into the GPS device? These days, GPS devices have traffic updates, but just saying, if it wasn't there, right? Or maybe why can't it come to your phone, right? Before you leave, before you're about to leave for office, the FM channel that has real-time update can sort of send a message and reschedule all your appointments so that you avoid most of the traffic. Somebody will do that. Okay, and then you have Internet of Things, which essentially is trying to map real-time data which is always available with real-time action. All right, so I'll share this with you. If you're running digital ads, right, some of these vendors, they allow you to create runtime ads, which means if you're a black guy in the US and the cookie knows that you're a black guy, right, they'll replace that white guy's photo with a black guy's photo. Runtime, right? So that level of personalization is possible only because the data and the capability to automate action based on data is there. Messages, products, I'm sure you would have seen if you browse some products on Flipkart, you start seeing similar products everywhere else you go, right? So. Okay, this is an interesting part actually. It is not as concrete as the graphs that I had shown, but an important discovery nevertheless. Okay. Pre-2004 internet and post-2004 internet. 2004 means invention of Facebook. Okay. What do you think changed? Voice of the customer was there. If they wanted to post something online, forums were there.
The way you advertise.
Yeah. To some extent, yes. Banners had been there before Facebook also. Email marketing was there.
But then you knew which is the correct pulse to catch of the customer. Suppose.
Yeah, don't look at it only from a customer point of view. Look at it from a general internet point of view. Okay. Let me tell you that this was the reason why when Mark Zuckerberg was offered $1 billion to sell his company, he refused. It's a very simple idea, right? But his belief in that idea made him say no to $1 billion. That's the idea I'm talking about. See, pre-2004, people believed that online is an escape from real life. Like, you could be anonymous. It's a different life. Real life is a different life. Okay. This guy, he believed that digital can actually be used to enrich real lives. Okay. So that's why you have to use your real identity in Facebook. In fact, post Facebook, most of the networks or most places where you go, you're supposed to declare your, your real identity. This was the idea. It marks an amazing shift in how internet was used before Facebook and how internet has been used since Facebook. Okay. IBM launched something called Secondlife.com, which flopped. It's so obvious now that you may not think how deep this idea is, because we all are on Facebook and other channels where we have disclosed our identity. You may not think that it's an earth-shattering idea, right? But trust me, before 2004, it was. Okay, nobody wanted, nobody thought that they could actually use internet to enrich their real lives, and that's why Facebook is such a big deal. Okay, because I believe that that online could enrich your offline so much. It's a reflection of offline, not a separate virtual world. Okay. If you do advertising on TV, right, you spend 3 crores creating an ad and you spend 300 crores running an ad, okay, for a year. So most of the cost that you would incur would be for distribution. This advertising marketing is just an example. Same with distribution of products. Okay, digital sort of shifts that. So you have, so you're supposed to spend more time creating stuff and optimizing, more time and resources than distribution, because this distribution is easy. Okay, which is why you have a lot of consultancies that spend so much time looking at each data aspect of any campaign that you run and try to optimize it, right? So unlike a TV ad which was created once and then you see the same ad running for 20 years. If you look at Nirma ad, right, it's been the same ad has been there for 25 years. Digital, they keep changing it, right? So they learn, then they create a separate version of that ad for a separate customer, right? So it's a customer segment. Ideally, in an ideal world, you will actually have a separate ad for a separate, for an individual customer. If you have 5 million customers, you will have 5 million versions of ads going on. So that's so the cost shifting in effort is towards creation and optimization. Okay, how many of you are with tech background, like work in tech companies, IT, tech? Most, right? Most, okay. There is this new concept. there's this new, all companies are looking for people who, who understand technology, who come from technology background, and can move into marketing. Okay, there's a name for it. It's called marketing technologists, chief marketing technologists, who supposedly better than, more equipped than a regular chief marketing officer or a marketing head. Okay, why? Because the tech landscape of digital marketing is this complicated. So this is us, this is end customer, okay, who's sitting there, and this is Flipkart, okay, that's trying to show an ad to us on digital media. If they want to do it on TV, they'll just make an ad on TV and talk to a channel and get it done. If they want to show an ad to you, right, they have to understand this tech landscape, right? Who can understand a tech landscape like this? Nobody except somebody who has been in tech for a while. Okay, so all of these guys who are in marketing today, who have never coded in their lives, right, they don't get it. Not too many of them. So there is this company called Luma LLC, right? They have created tech landscape for various aspects of digital marketing. So you have marketing automation, analytics, you have search, you have display, behavioral targeting. All of those are individually more complicated than this. Yeah. So long tail data and automation, real life getting enriched by digital, cost shifting, and obviously complicated tech stack. Those are sort of the patterns that you will see across any digital business. You pick any digital business and you can actually map out on these 5 frameworks and say, yes, this is where it fits, this is what it requires. And supply side also, yeah, supply side is non-virtual, right? So they also have to manage their supply chain, warehouses. The front end is virtual, which is the store. The marketing is sort of digital, but they also do TV. But there's a huge supply chain side, warehouse, supply chain, logistics, right? But to give you an example about how digital is being used by offline companies, okay? So say you want to launch a new project. You're a large company, you want to launch a new product in the market. There are, how many options do you have? You can do some market research, right? You can have focus groups, call 10 people, ask them how this product is, and then essentially you go ahead and then do large scale advertising, which is what most of these companies do. Now the product fails, right? You spend 200 crores in marketing it on TV, and the product becomes a flop, right? How can you use digital to minimize this risk? You don't have to spend on TV, right? You take a small portion of that marketing budget, right? You create digital marketing pilot program, right? You get to know whether the product is connecting with the customer or not, right? A lot of companies these days, the offline companies who are not selling online, they do this, right? They spend 0.1% of that money in running a pilot program on digital, right? Where they don't only find out whether customers would buy or not, they'll also find out if customers show initial engagement with the product or not, right? So if you've seen Google Analytics data, you know what bounce rate is. So essentially, here is a page where you talk about your product, right? You show a banner on a website, somebody clicks on that banner, comes to your website, looks at the product description, and goes away in 3 seconds. Obviously, it's not working. So, you run something like that for maybe 300 visitors, you have sufficient data to go back and sort of redo the packaging or redo the product specification or the product itself. Okay.
But in Indian context, like certain FMCG, like Colgate, they are selling in their mass market in Indian rural area. How we are going to handle these situations in a rural area where the digital world is still not established?
So are you asking that how do we solve this problem in rural areas? Where do they have access to phones, at least?
Yes.
Right? See, if they don't have any digital devices, then that falls outside the scope of digital, right? Which means you have to talk to some other guy because I am digital.
So in that case, like the marketing is still going on with the traditional way
Of course, yeah. If they don't have access to digital devices, you can't use digital marketing to reach out to them.
TV is the medium where they can run this campaigning or whatever they create. So in that case, like again the mass expenditures is going through the TV channel.
Right. So if the product that you are selling is supposed to appeal to people in rural areas, right? Then there's not much digital can do to either sell or for you to find out whether this product will work or not using digital. There's only so much you can do, right?
I'm talking about the running product like the Nirma or Colgate paste or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So that is still going through this traditional way of marketing.
Right.
Campaigning will go through only the TV channels.
Right. See, when you look at Nirma, right, it's a well-established product, right? I'm talking about new launches. Okay, if you want to launch a new product or a project or whatever, right? The possibility of you making a difference and getting the highest ROI is far more if you use digital. Brands that have already been established for decades, they have made their space. There's not much that digital can add on them, right? You look at the new set of companies. How many companies that you're aware of today became brands from TV? I'm not talking about old companies. Have you ever seen Google running an ad on TV or Facebook or Uber or Ola? Ola maybe recently, right? Flipkart recently, right? These guys did not rely on TV, right? They became brands, and after that they got a lot of money, so they started doing ads on TV.
Can you give some insights on some of the tools that can be used, which are readily available to create quick and good advertisements for initial product launches where the budget is a huge risk?
Yes. So first of all, before you think of a project or a product, right? There is a tool. It is a free tool that allows you to find out whether there is a demand or not for that product. It is Google Adwords keyword planner. Some of you probably already know about it, right? Gives you an immediate opportunity to find out if there is a demand for your product or not, right? So I met this guy recently. He's my client. What they do is they aggregate serviced apartments. Okay, and when I met him, I was not too sure how much of help digital could do. Then he asked me to look into it. He said, see if you can help us. And then I used Keyword Planner to find out the demand for serviced apartments. Take a wild guess. How many people do you think in Bangalore would be looking for serviced apartments? Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, all the metro cities in India, every month. It's a very surprising figure. 1 lakh in Bangalore every month. Unlike, that's a lot. Yeah. How many people in Bangalore every month would be? 1,000. It's 15,000. 15,000 people look for serviced apartments in Bangalore every month. Okay? And there are not too many aggregators. You can go to Google, search for serviced apartments in Bangalore. You have Stayzilla, you have Oyo rooms, but not exactly serviced apartments. They're mostly hotels. Okay? That's it. And you get ads from all these hotels and all these guys, right? Hotel aggregators, not service apartments aggregators. There's no service apartments aggregator right now, right? And there's so much of demand. And 15,000 is just for Bangalore. You have similar numbers for Hyderabad, Chennai, and even larger numbers for Mumbai and Delhi. Okay. So that's a tool that you can use. Then you can use Google Trends to find out the potential in near future. So for instance, the number is 15,000 today, right? Now if there was a tool for me to find out what the number was a year back, 2 years back, 3 years back, and if I could map out and say, there is an exponential growth projected, so Google Trends does that.
Out of 15,000 potentially, like the conversion rate, like that's what I think, 10%.
See, conversion rate, how many people will choose to buy your product, right, is not a function of how many people are looking for that product, right? There are many things involved here. What is your product? What is your value proposition, right? Do you allow people to pay cash on delivery? Okay, so there is no universal conversion rate.
Today morning, like, when I read one article, it's very surprising. In the entire world, 99% apps are either being used one time or two times or never used, but they are into the OS. Only 1% apps are in a vibrant in this.
Why do you think? What law does that follow? That's
I don't know. I've just read the.
no. Right. So I mean, I thought you would not be surprised with that now that you know long tail, right? You have a couple of heroes and everybody is hero. That's what you meant, right?
Yes.
Right? That's long tail. That's what long tail means, right? It governs entire digital landscape, right? Whatever you pick, anything from digital, right? Whether it's app downloads, usage of app, okay? Forget about just app downloads, right? Maybe out of those 1% app that got downloaded by 200,000 people, right? You map the usage, right? Out of those 200 apps, only 20 apps are being used extensively. Everything else is probably used once or twice, even after downloads. So the implication of long tail is huge. You just quoted an example yourself.
The tool that you mentioned for advertisement is mostly around market research. The tools that we can use for creating awareness,
Okay, so the tool that I mentioned is actually not market research. It is a tool that is used to create and run campaigns. It's called Adwords, Google Adwords. So this is one of those features in Google Adwords. So essentially, if you want to run ads, digital, the best way to get started is using Google Adwords. Okay, think about it, right? 50 years back, if a business wanted to do advertising, what would they do? Newspaper, TV, phone. Do you think a small guy, like a regular middle class guy, like could advertise business? No. It was only accessible to very rich people, right? If a poor guy, if a middle class guy wanted to start a business, there was absolutely no way for him to do that. At least odds were against him, right? You needed a budget of minimum of few lakhs to be able to advertise. Today with Google AdWords, even if you have a budget of 200 rupees a month, a day or a month, you can advertise. That's what.
The long tail says there are only a few heroes, whereas digital is kind of giving an equitable platform to everybody to level
Who's
playing
capturing the
field
value
for
is only
everybody.
few. Creating value, but capturing is only few.
Right. See, it allows you to do that. So I'm not saying that this advertising has to be to sell online business. I can run, say I own an institute, a Java training institute in Whitefield. Okay? I can advertise. I have a monthly budget of 10,000 rupees. I can advertise. I can get everyone around Whitefield who is looking for Java training in Whitefield, I can get in front of them. Just 1 second. So, in fact, this is where light consumers and light suppliers, this is where that falls. Okay? So, Google has created a DIY platform for me. Say I have an institute in Whitefield and I do technical training. I teach Java, C++, whatever, right? I'm not PES, I'm not IPL, right? I'm a small guy, right? I have a small room in Whitefield, right? And I can teach maybe 20 students a month, okay? But I still want to be able to use advertising and attract customers, right? I have a platform, Adwords sits here, and this is Adwords, okay? It allows me, I'm a light supplier, okay, to have a monthly marketing budget of 10,000 rupees to reach out to retail customers around Whitefield, 25, 50 of them, light customers who are looking for Java training in Whitefield. That's what it does. And that tool is called Adwords. And obviously Microsoft its own version. This is where it fits in.
So is there anything to spot trends? Say for example, certain trends are picking up and on, and say you said service departments or something like that. So how do you
Google Trends. Google Trends gives you some idea, right? See, the issue with trends is you have to start somewhere, right? Right? You have to know what you want, what you want to look for. See, if you just go to Google Trends and say, show me trends, won't work, right? You have to have something, right? So if you have something, right, then it can tell you related searches, related affinities and all that, right? But you have to start somewhere. Google Trends does that, and there are quite a few other tools actually that allow you to do that. So this is the first time in the history of mankind that people who do not have a lot of money can still advertise. It was never possible. It was only accessible to very rich people. I'm telling you, right, that if you have a budget of 500 rupees a day, you can still advertise on Google. Any further questions?
So the cost shift is basically on the distribution part alone. So and the ROI from the distribution. So that distribution is what has become democratic.
Distribution has become much cheaper. Okay, and the focus is on iterations and optimization rather than creating something which you consider is the best and then use mass media to scale it, right, like a TV ad. So that's the idea. You have something that you go online with and then you keep optimizing. So you spend money in optimization and recreation rather than spending a lot of money in distributing what you've just created.
Yeah, because the tools take care of the distribution reach, and you just need to optimize your content as to what needs to be targeted to be
No, you still pay for paid media. Like if you want to reach out to 500,000 people in Bangalore, right, using Facebook paid advertising, you still have to pay, right? But there are ways to sort of, there are workarounds, right? So if you create content which is so compelling and so shareable that everybody who discovers it shares with 10 other friends, then the distribution becomes free.
But which one is more popular, push and push up?
Both are popular. Both are popular.
Which is more successful comparative to?
That's a very, very high level question. You know, see the way it works is if you do advertising on TV, it's push, right? And if you sort
AdWords is like push, that also is push.
AdWords, so there are two parts to AdWords, right? One is search and one is display, right? Search is pull. People are looking for something that you're selling, so you get in front of them. The display part is still push to some extent, but then you have more access to the behavior of people. So you only show your ads to people who Google tells you that may be interested in your product, rather than broadcasting it to everyone, right? So yes, to some extent it is push, but the data that Google allows you, Google or any other ad network for instance, allows you to target using, makes it, you know, far more relevant. So yes, push and pull both are important. But when you talk about digital, we are generally talking about extremely highly relevant targeting, and not exactly broadcasting like you do on TV and radio.
So thanks, Tauqueer, for finding out time for us to deliver this insightful session.
Sure.
And apologies for requesting you to compress it
No issues.
because of some shortage of time. So now I would like to request Chetan and Srinivas to, these are our latest product managers, the fresh product managers, to hand over a small token of appreciation to you.
Thank you. My
I'm sorry,
email ID
I
is
missed.
there, so if you have any
Senthil
questions,
can
you
also come. Senthil. I mistakenly called off his name. You can also come. Senthil, come. Come. That's okay. Come. So, come. Don't be shy. Product manager should not be shy.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. So my email ID is there. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to address. All right.